Welcome to Irish Football Weekly. I'm one of the hosts, Josh Benjamin. Got my co-host with me, Tony Hunter. He's a former tight end for the Irish from 79 to 82. He was also drafted in the first round of the NFL Draft, 12th overall by the Buffalo Bills. And he joins us today, of course. Tony, how's it going today?
Oh, it's going fantastic. Trying to beat the heat here in Cincinnati, Josh. But other than that, everything's going fine.
Good deal, good deal. So, listeners out there, you can go to our website, thegruelingtruth.net, find our show, Irish Football Weekly, along with other shows that have great talents from those people out there on the Grueling Truth. So big shout out to those guys and gals. And you can also find us on Stitcher, Spreaker, iTunes, Google Music, iHeartRadio, just to name a few. So we're also on Spotify, but I digress from that, and I really want to jump in and talk about this Notre Dame game versus the Wolverines from Michigan and how they played, and we'll talk a little bit about Ball State as well. So, Tony, first initial thoughts from the Irish beating down the Wolverines, even though the score looks close. In my opinion, it really wasn't. 24-17 win.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Josh, I was impressed. It made me feel good to see so much green in the stands at Notre Dame. There was a green out. And I think everybody was really looking forward to playing Michigan again. And I thought the team came out. They looked confident. They played fast. They played physical. And I was really impressed.
Well, I'm glad you talked about the fans. That's one of the things that if you look back last year, look in the stands, and some of the big games, it was kind of a mixed bag. I would say the Georgia game, it was a good amount of red in there. With that green, but that now this year, this first game, maybe it's because of the big rivalry, who knows? But there was a lot of green in there, and that's something I definitely want to touch on. So I'm glad you pointed that out.
Yeah, there was a green out. I mean, I've seen pictures of the stadium, and man, it was 3/4 green. I tell you, I was impressed with that. It looks like people are really excited about the team this year, as we should be, because. Hey, when I saw them flying around out there on that field, playing the way they were, it reminded me, especially defensively. I wanted to point on that. I haven't seen our defense play that fast and physical in a long time. I think this is their second year under this particular system, and they look comfortable with it. And it's allowing them to just play free and just go out there and play football, and that's what they're doing.
I'm glad you talked about the defense first, because that's one of the things I like to talk about, especially if you haven't noticed. The defense, so we talked about Gilman, the safety from the Naval Academy, briefly in the first show before the game, and he was third on the team in tackles. He had 7. He had a tackle for loss. He had 2 breakups. I mean, he was all over the place if you just sit there and watch the safety position Gilman and how he played, and he played really well. But to go along with what you had mentioned, I mean, Tavon Coney had 10 tackles.
Did he?
Kareem,
okay.
Yeah, he had 10, 6 solo and 4 assisted, and then he had a tackle for loss too, a couple QB hurries, the fumble recovery, of course. So he had a pretty good game along with Kareem.
That's the guy that I noticed, Khalid Kareem.
Yeah.
And I think he was just chosen for the Walter Camp National Defensive Player of the Week, the National FBS Defensive Player of the Week for that game. And he's the thing is, he's a Michigan native. I think he's from Farmington, Michigan. So I know he was fired up. He was ready to play that game. He probably was ready to run through a brick wall to play and before that game. And so he came out. He was ready, and he obviously just had a fantastic game. And they're expecting big things from him all year, big things.
Oh yeah, and you stand corrected there. He was part of that Walter Camp Player of the Week award. So kudos to him, man. He did a nice job, obviously, with those stats. And just to touch base, he is from Pontiac, Michigan. So kind of a little thing there where he wants to, show his hometown, home state. He's definitely a ball player, which he is, of course. So the defense, let's talk a little bit more about the defense. They held then to essentially 10 points there with a field goal and the touchdown. I know the other 7 came from special teams, which we'll get to later, but defensively 10 points in one game. And
wow.
Regardless
and
of,
I think they had less than 2 yards of carry. I think they held Michigan 58 yards rushing, which is like less than 2 yards of carry. You can't get much better than that, Josh.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They averaged 1.8 yards per attempt to be exact. So that's outstanding. Yeah, like you said, 58 yards total and 1.8 per carry, which is excellent.
That's incredible. And going into the game, it was Michigan's defense that was getting all the publicity. You know, they should have quite a few guys going in the NFL draft, high in the NFL draft next year. That's Michigan. And so before the game, they were getting most of the publicity, but I think it was the Irish defense that played the better game that day. I really do.
Oh, no doubt about it. I totally agree 100%. They stepped up, and that experience, like we alluded to in the first show, they definitely showed out right there in front of a home crowd. So kudos to that defense. Some great ball players on that defense, and hopefully they carry that over to the Ball State game.
Keep it going. Just keep getting better because even though I'm a former offensive player, I believe in the old saying, it's defense that wins championships. And as a player, we had some of the best defenses in Notre Dame's history. So we really had some strong defenses with Bob Crable, with Dave Doerson, and the list goes on and on with great players that we had. Stacy Turan that we had on those defenses while I was at Notre Dame. And they always kept us in a game.
Yeah, you definitely have to have a strong, mentally tough defense that can take adversity and go with good things as well with sacks and turnovers and such. So, yes, definitely carry over in that second game there. I want to talk about the offense just a little bit. But
sure.
before we get to that, Tony, I do want to bring up one little instance in the game, and it's actually on Michigan. So they enforced the I can't remember what the actual term is now, but it was a targeting call. I think that's actually the term, targeting call on their safety, who's actually a really good player. And regardless, I personally don't think it was malicious. And
I know what you're talking about. Came in with the shoulder, but it kind of made head contact a little bit.
Yep. Yeah. And
that's a tough call. You know, me as a former receiver, I know that there's a lot of times we're running full blast and we're defenseless running down that field. I think there should be some protections put in place to help with the head injuries and that. But it's still football, man. Let them play football. And but that's tough because he's coming in with his shoulder, and like you said, it wasn't malicious. I didn't think it was malicious either. And but as the offensive player, the Notre Dame player was falling forward, sort of the target changed as the defender was coming in, and the Notre Dame offensive player was falling forward. He happened to glance him on the head with the shoulder pads, and that was a tough call. But I'm all for safety, man. I'm all for safety, and if they can kind of tinker with it a little bit and get it right, and it improves the safety for receivers and players in the game, I'm all for it because that's, as you know, it's a nasty game, and so there needs to be safeguards put in place.
Oh, most definitely safety precautions. I was just going to say I'm just referring to the penalty for that. I mean, to get kicked out for the rest of the game is pretty substantial. I mean, we are trying to tackle different now and work on different shots and where you're supposed to hit the offensive player and so on. And I just think throwing him out for the game is pretty rough.
He's been warned, though. Believe me, that defensive player has been warned by his defensive coaches, and I think that's part of the reason why he came in with that shoulder instead of the head. There was a time that, man, that would have been a headbutt shot right there on that receiver. But he came in with the shoulder as he's been coached, and I think a big part of the reason that they are a lot more cautious nowadays because all it takes is one. All it takes is one, and you're out of the game. And so, I think the rule is effective that way, and that a guy just doesn't decide to take a cheap shot and injure a guy and get a warning or something like that. No, it's one shot and you're out, and I'm in agreement with that.
Yeah, and so they have to definitely learn how to do the right thing there. But I just want to touch base on that and see your thoughts with that as well. So we're going to move on here to the offense, and I was at first the first series they went 2 plays. I think they went 1 yard, and then they got the third down conversion, kind of made them a little more comfortable. But impressive in the first half, I thought. The receivers, I was at least in the first half, I should say, was very, lack of a better term, impressive. But still, Wimbush has still got a ways to go. But I want to hear your thoughts on the offense, Tony.
You know what? They came out, and they looked sharp on offense. I think they scored on the first 3 of 4 drives that they had. So, they really looked good. Wimbush looked relaxed. He looked focused. He didn't play a great game, but I thought he was effective all game. I love him as a competitor. I think he's a great competitor, and I think he's the guy that should be in there leading the team. I just love his toughness. I love his toughness. 3 out of the first 4 drives, Indy had 21 points and 233 yards of offense in the first half. But in the second half, we came out and we just looked flat. We only scored 3 points and had 69 yards total in the second half. And in these games that are coming up against some even tougher competition, we're going to have to come out and be more effective in the second half.
Yeah, I agree with you about the first half. They came out strong, came out firing. And, one of the players that impressed me the most was Jafar Armstrong. Wow, what a
I like him too. He came out ready to play, and he was competing out there. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he seems to be a game changer, and hopefully he continues to be a part of that mix. He had 15 carries, only 43 yards, but, he had 2 touchdowns, and then moments he flashed really well. He caught a couple balls as well. Him and Tony Jones Jr. Did an awesome job of mixing it up there, so they kind of split the carries there. But definitely impressive running back as an overall statement. Not necessarily flashy, like you said, really.
They looked a little green. They looked a little inexperienced, a little green. But when Dexter Williams I think they can hold the fort down until Dexter Williams gets back. And I think that trio, when Williams does get back, they're going to be really good. They're going to be effective. And, the thing I noticed about Wimbush, to me, just kind of watching the game, analyzing it, I thought he looked comfortable in the pocket, and I felt comfortable. I thought he looked comfortable in what he was seeing downfield. A lot more comfortable than last year. You didn't see a lot of balls thrown in really terrible situations. It looked like he was reading his coverages and going to the open guy. And I thought he was maybe aiming his balls a little too much. But, I was impressed with him. I thought he looked solid. And I look forward to seeing him improve as the season goes on. But, I really think he's the guy for the job right now with Notre Dame. He's got that experience playing in big games. He's got the toughness. Because he's going against tough competition, man. And he's being hit. So you're going to have to have a guy that's tough in there.
Well, along with that, he had 12 completions to 7 different receivers. So, in my opinion, some of these guys didn't play that much last year. Some of these guys are new guys, and the trust that he has in some of those catches in the first half were pretty impressive by the receivers. So, kudos to those guys for stepping up. But going back to Wimbush, 7 different receivers getting a catch or 2 or even more. That's impressive for coming out fresh with a whole brand new slew of receivers. So
that's
kudos on both those guys.
Yeah, I think he looks a lot more comfortable reading coverages this year, Josh. When he's looking downfield, when he looks downfield, he gets to the line of scrimmage, he looks and sees what type of coverages he's up against. He looks like he feels a lot more relaxed about knowing where to go with the football. And he's going there. So that's a good thing. It's a good sign that they put in a lot of work with him during the off season, and it's paying off for him right now because he does look more comfortable in the pocket, looks more comfortable reading coverages, and so should be interesting as he develops the rest of the year.
Yeah, and the last group that we probably want to talk about a little bit is the offensive line. They obviously lost 2 top 10 NFL picks, and to replace them is a pretty big upholding of the guys that are replacing them too. And so I thought overall they did pretty decent. I thought there were some breakdowns here and there, but I think that'll happen with any group of guys. And to begin the first game, back against the big rival, I think that was something that probably had some issues with. But I think overall the offensive line did pretty decent for blocking for Brandon and for that running.
I did too. I was paying attention to that because they just lost 2 top 10 first round draft picks in the National Football League off that offensive line. So I was wondering how they would do in this game, and I thought they were solid. I thought they were aggressive. They were getting after people. I was watching them, and they were getting after that Michigan defensive line. And so, like I said, kudos to Kelly and his staff for getting these guys up to speed and being ready to play the type of schedule that Notre Dame plays. But, yeah, I was impressed with them. I thought they played well for a first game. I thought they played well.
So a question that ran through my mind in the second half and even going into the end of the game there, the second half obviously was a totally different atmosphere as far as, in my opinion, maybe play calls, maybe being satisfied, maybe Michigan adjusted and we didn't, Notre Dame didn't. So what are your thoughts on that second half performance?
I thought Michigan made some adjustments defensively. I just don't think we were as focused on throwing the football as we were in that first half. We were open to just coming out and firing that thing downfield and letting the chips where they fall where they may. But I thought the second half we became a lot more conservative, and I think we were trying to sit on the lead and kind of run the clock out. And I thought that played against us. But when you have young receivers, you have young kids on your offense on your offensive line, and might not be a bad idea if you're up as much as Notre Dame was at the halftime to try to get that running game going to eat up some of that clock. That's good football. But I thought Michigan counterattacked a lot better, and they actually got themselves back in the game in that second half, and they made it a game. But the one thing I bet you Jim Harbaugh is having second thoughts about is not going for that onside kick, if you remember what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to, don't you? You have to, right?
I thought he should have gone for that onside kick because what do you have to lose? I mean,
exactly.
What do you have to lose? But he decided to kick it deep, and I bet he's having second thoughts on that right about now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I definitely agree. And I think all those things kind of played a factor, whether it was playing not to lose, which meant, play calling was affected by that, whether it was being lack of focus or even, Michigan adjusted enough to where it evened out with Notre Dame. So I think all those things are great learning experiences, and hopefully
because that's a good football team too. That's a good point, Josh.
Yep.
They were ranked 14th coming into that game.
Yes,
that's a good football team, and so they made some adjustments, and they got the upper hand in that second half. They made a game out of it. Had me nervous there for a second.
Yes, they did, and so they move on and they win They go 1-0, and they face this Ball State team at home, of course, on Saturday, September 8th, 3:30 p.m. on NBC, of course. And I would have guessed this, but this will be the first meeting between these two teams. Both Indiana schools, and the first time meeting. I never would have guessed that.
That's incredible. We used to, let's see, back when I was playing, Purdue was our biggest interstate rival, I think, at that time. Purdue was. That would always be a big game whenever we went down to Purdue. Man, they'd be fired up and ready to go. And whenever it came up against us, it was always a big game at home. But I can remember my teammate and friend, Dave Durson, who was from Muncie, Indiana. And he always talked about some of the talent that was at Ball State, mainly in basketball back then. They they would come up with some very talented basketball players. But, Durson was a great athlete from Muncie, Indiana, and he talked about the football program, too. They had some good athletes. So we can't underestimate the type of players that Ball State may have on the field this coming Saturday. So we just have to keep that same focus that we had against Michigan coming in and take care of business and win this game, because we have some tough games ahead on the schedule.
I agree, and the thing that I'm going to look for, at least one of the things, is to see how they're going to react to a team that they probably should win. They should probably beat this team, and how they're going to come in. Are they going to come in focused? Are they going to come in a little lackadaisical from this win that they just beat? It'll be interesting to see that. So that's one thing I'll definitely look at, is how their approach is when they first step on the field there.
Hit the field
in Notre Dame. Yeah,
that'll have a lot. A lot of that has to do with how Coach Kelly gets them ready to play. He had them ready for the Michigan game. They were ready to go to war, and it showed on the field. Now it can, we go from Michigan, the number 14 team in the country, to Ball State. We should blow them out the water. I wouldn't think like that. Just come in there ready to play football, take care of your business, and win this game at home.
This is a game where they need to be. They don't need to be, but this is a game to help themselves be perfect, if that makes sense. Make things very clear, be crisp, that intensity, that focus, all those things. Coming into this game, I'm hoping that he's preaching, to be very crisp with everything that you do, be detail oriented, and do it to the best of your ability. But I'm really eager. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think it's a good time to let Wimbush air it out some more. Let him air it out some more like he did in that first half against Michigan. Let him get some confidence throwing the football to the different receivers that he's going to. But it looks like as I said, looks like he's reading coverages really well, and let him keep developing the passing part of his game this week against Ball State. And we're getting closer and closer to Dexter Williams coming back. He has, 4-game suspension?
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting closer to him coming back, and keep chipping away at that running game. Get those guys ready. Those other two guys that are playing. And but I think it's important to keep developing the passing part of Wimbush's game. I think he had 58 yards rushing or something like that, along with his passing yards in the last game against Michigan. But I saw some good things out of him, and I think they should keep developing it in this next game against Ball State. It's a great time to let him throw the football and get some confidence.
Along with your point there, so on our Facebook page, Irish Football Weekly, by the way, listeners, you can go on there and follow us. We have tons of different things we talk about and post, and one of the things was that I posted over the weekend was some initial thought about this game, and then some people put some different opinions, and one person asked if they should start the backup to get some time in just in case Wimbush may not be available later, or maybe they need to put Book E and Book in one of those tough games. What are your thoughts on that? I thought that was an interesting question.
I'm sorry. Say that again, Josh. As far as what now?
One of the
fading in a little bit. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. One of the followers on our Facebook page, Irish Football Weekly, they put a question on there posing, should they start Ian Book this weekend to get some passing in and to get him more comfortable with his other guys, just in case Wimbush may not be available, or maybe he, drops back and rescinds a little bit.
Book. I like Book. I think he's a competitor. But I don't like that two quarterbacks rotating offense situation. I don't like that at all, because as an offensive player, you want to know who your leader is at quarterback, and that's the guy that you're going to ride with. I just think when you start rotating the quarterback's too important a position to be rotating guys. And now, if Wimbush is struggling, I say put Book in the game, give him a long leash, let him get out there and let's see what he can really do, and we'll know from that point on which direction we're going to head. But I've always despised rotating quarterbacks like that. I've never seen it be successful, to be honest with you. I haven't seen it be successful.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting question, and but I really agree with you. I think the quarterback position is too important to rotate players in, and actually this, like you said, this could give Wimbush some confidence amongst his receivers and himself, probably, of getting into a nice groove of throwing the ball and reading the defense and being able to make plays. So, yeah, I agree with you. I just wanted to bring that up, and I wanted to thank all the listeners out there that are on our Facebook page, because they've been pouring in with comments and questions and things. So keep doing that as we go through the season. But let's go ahead and move on to our next segment here, 3 toughest picks, which I'd rather not, because I went 0 for 3 this weekend, Tony. It was bad. It was 0 for 3. You went 1 for 2, so at least you got on the board there with that win. That was the Auburn game.
Yeah, the Auburn game. Yeah, I saw that.
So
it'll be a long year.
Yep.
It's going to be a long year.
Definitely a long year for me with this. But I got 3 games. They're all ranked besides one, and I'll tell you why I put that as the toughest pick game. So our first game, though, is number 3 Georgia at number 24 South Carolina. So a game of SEC here. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a league game, SEC, and I think Georgia's loaded again this year. I think they'll win. I'll take Georgia.
Yeah, I'm going to take Georgia as well. I just can't pick against them. Just can't do it. I think they're too good. So they'll show that this weekend for sure. Second game, got a big one here. Number 17 USC at number 10 Stanford. So 2 Notre Dame opponents playing each other, 2 rivals in my opinion. So USC at Stanford.
USC and Stanford's ranked what this year?
Number 10.
They're number 10, and USC is
17.
Ranked what now?
Number 17.
Wow. USC, it wouldn't surprise me. And they looked good in that first week, didn't they? I think wouldn't surprise me if they were loaded once again. But I like that head coach up there at Stanford. And I'll take Stanford.
All right.
I think you'll have them ready.
I think so, too. And I like you said, I like their coach up there. And he's a really good organized coach that knows how to get those Stanford guys ready to roll. And another reason why I chose Stanford. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think they like him a lot up there, too, Josh. I think he's one of the top 5 highest-paid coaches in college football this year.
He probably is, and he definitely deserves it. I know he hasn't actually been to a national title game, but he's made them successful, made them relevant, so he definitely deserves it. I was going to say I'm choosing Stanford because their GPA is higher than USC, so I know that for a fact. That's got to be true. So.
You're probably right about that.
Yeah, I would think so. I hope so, at least.
Right but they,
man.
I think Stanford is tough, man. I was looking at the one kid that came out of Stanford, the running back that's playing for the Carolina Panthers. What's
Christian
that?
Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I watched that kid. That kid's a good football player.
He's solid, that's for sure. I agree. He's a total package when it comes to running back. He's good.
Yeah, and he can catch the ball. He can run it. I think Stanford developed him really well. So they're playing good football at Stanford right now. Playing good football. So, and I think USC coming into Stanford. But tell you what, when we used to play against USC, it was just amazing at how many great athletes they would put on the field back then, especially. Just great athletes on the defensive line, great athletes at linebacker, the DBs, and of course, the wide receivers and running backs. It was just unreal, the athletic talent that they would put on the field. So, but I don't think they're as good right now as they were back then, and I think Stanford is much, much better.
Well, that brings us to our next game, and it's a ranked team, number 2 Clemson. They're playing an unranked team, and I'm going to tell you why I chose this game. So number 2 Clemson at Texas A&M, which Texas A&M just hired Jimbo Fisher this offseason, and he brings a lot of good things to that Aggie football program. So I think it's going to be tougher than they think. It's at Texas A&M. They're on the road. They're playing against a good coach who's trying to make this program even better. So who do you got there?
Clemson they reload every year, man. I think this guy has the pick of the talent. Whoever he wants, he pretty much gets, because, I look at their defensive front every year, and he graduate going to the NFL, and then he'll bring a whole new crew in, and they graduate, go high in the draft and into the NFL. I expect that to be true again this year with Stanford. With Clemson. So I'm going to go with Clemson in that game.
All right. Well, since we all had similar picks in the first 2 games, I got to pick A&M because, well, it's going to be different. We don't want to be boring and the same. So I'm going to go with A&M, and okay. I'm going out on a limb there, obviously. But you never know. They're at home. They're a big game. I'm sure they'll have a big crowd, and they'll be ready to play there. So
they love football in Texas, and
that is a fact.
I had some teammates that had played at Texas A&M, former NFL teammates that were from Texas A&M, and they were good football players.
Yeah, they definitely produced down there for sure. Definitely. So that brings us to our last segment, probably the favorite segment. Like I say, almost every time it probably gets repetitive, but you know what? I think it is truly Irish prediction time. Tony, I'm going to let you go first per usual. So what do you have for the score for this weekend's game against Ball State?
I am going to say if we don't drop our guard, get overconfident, and not come into this game focused, I'm going to say this will be the game. This will be offensively. This game will wind up like the Michigan game started, with the offense really putting up some points in a hurry and spreading the ball around. I'm going to say Notre Dame 35, and I'm going to say Ball State 14.
You have 35-14. I was thinking something very similar, but I actually went up in points there. So I think they're going to really, really come out explosive, ready to go. I think the special teams will play a positive role this time, and I think that defense is going to score. I really do. I think with Alohi around the ball all the time and those experienced defensive players, I think they're going to score at least once on defense. So I'm going to say 42-14.
42-14,
Yeah. So
I hope so. I hope they score that many points. We need to, because we need to get some guys. We need to get our offense confident and playing the way they were in that first half against Michigan. Yeah. And, man, we can play with anybody if we're playing like that with the defense that we have right now. And if that offense comes in and starts putting up 30, 40 points in a game, man, I tell you what, the sky's the limit for what this team could do.
Absolutely, and I think they will. I think they'll be ready to roll this weekend against the Cardinals at home. So go Irish for that. So, well, Tony, it's been fun. It's been real.
Yes, absolutely.
It's been real fun. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes, as always.
As always, for sure. So that's going to wrap up our show, listeners. Irish Football Weekly for this week. Don't forget to check out our website, thegruelingtruth.net. Has multiple shows of your likings, including ours, Irish Football Weekly, of course. I also have a show, Real Deal, as well. That's on there. You can also find us in multiple medias, such as I mentioned earlier, Stitcher, Spreaker, Google Music, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify now. So you can find us just about everywhere on the web. So you can also like our Facebook page, Irish Football Weekly. Follow that as well. We got some good posts and good conversations from those fans out there, so go Irish for them. But that concludes our show. For my co-host, Tony Hunter, this is Josh Benjamin signing off for Irish Football Weekly. Go Irish. Peace.
Go Irish.